And we're live. Just getting the episode number correct. I think we're on episode 35 right now, so go with that. Welcome to the people of Portland and beyond, episode 35. Today in studio with me, and your Instagram handle, it says Lynette Brooks Model.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for coming in today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. It's a little drab outside today, but I think the weather's going to pick up soon.
That's what I keep reading in the forecast, and then it's still cold every day when I wake up, and I'm disappointed. Groundhog has not seen its shadow yet or something.
Not sure. It's funny. As a kid, my mother worked in Portland, and every time she'd bring me here, I'd be like, "Mom, why is it so overcast all the time?" She's like, "It's not always like this, but that's just Portland, I think."
All right. All right, let's start that again. For some reason, the audio wasn't recording. There we go. First. All right, welcome to the people of Portland and beyond, episode 35. Or was it 34? You can just edit it later. Either way, Lynette Brooks is in studio with me today. Thanks for coming. You drive in Portland, or do you take the TriMet and buses and Max and stuff?
I drive, and it's terrifying sometimes.
Where were you driving before you came to Portland?
Over in Vancouver, things are a little slower, and pedestrians and bicyclists don't just go out into the road, and so it was a good place to learn how to drive. Roads are much narrower here in Portland, so that can be a little scary sometimes. Luckily, I haven't clipped anyone's mirrors that I know of.
The drivers can be crazier over here in the West Coast. I'm from New York. Where were you from before Portland?
I'm a military brat. Both parents, mom was Air Force, dad was Army, so I'm kind of from all over the place.
Okay.
I was born Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and then quickly after that, we were stationed down in Panama for a few years, where my younger sister was born, and then they retired out of Fort Lewis and McCord up near Lacey, Washington. Moved around in a couple of places between those two, but just the highlights. My baby brother was born up there, so yeah.
Being from this military family, now are your family very Republican?
Mother would classify herself as a Republican. Father is a Democrat. Although, to be honest, I feel like my mom's a little more liberal and my father's a little more conservative. If you've ever seen that 70s show, my father's one of those real Red Foreman kind of guys.
I think that's how I imagine most of the Army conservative dads.
Yeah.
Or Major Dad. You ever see that show?
Mm-mm.
Oh, that was old classic. Are you watching anything on Netflix right now or Hulu?
I'm on my 5th rerun of Mad Men. People had been telling me for about a year that I absolutely had to see it. I'm kind of a vintage movie avid, and I finally got to start watching it, and
Nice.
it quickly became one of my favorite shows.
I'd recommend then Miss Maisel, Amazon Prime.
I just got through watching that while I was visiting with my father down in New Mexico just a couple of weeks ago. I had a couple of photo shoots down there, and while I was visiting, he was like, "You got to see this," and absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that the lead actress in that also plays in House of Cards, though. Very interesting, because it's very two different roles that she plays. So kudos to her as an actress.
So were you growing up in New Mexico?
No, my stepmother was stationed at Holloman Air Force Base down there as a chief of nursing, and her and my dad absolutely fell in love with sleepy little town of Alamogordo, so that's where they decided to buy property so that when she did retire out of the military, which happened just a couple months ago, that's where they decided to settle. Not even a bar in the town. It's real one of those sleepy, good for older people.
Did you grow up in a strict environment?
It was structured. Education was very important to both of my parents, so they really pushed that. I mean, I think it was typical of what millennials dealt with their parenting, kind of helicopter parents. But
Yeah.
when I got into high school, given my parents divorced when I was young, so I lived with my mother. She fell a little ill, and so I was more left to my own devices at times, and so I took myself to the doctors and to the dentist, and I started college 2 years early when I was 16, and so I drove myself to and there. But they
Mm.
both were very education was very important to both of them. So in that way, yes, they were kind of strict.
So you have a college degree, or what's?
I need to finish it actually. I graduated high school with an associate's degree, just a general one, and then I went on to Portland State for a botany degree, and I'm in
Nice.
senior class standing there. Just have a couple of credits I need to wrap up.
What interested you in the botany degree?
Well, when I started out in school, my father had really heavily pushed nursing actually, so that's what I started with the intent of doing, and I quickly went from wanting to be a nurse to wanting to be a doctor, and then I wanted to be a naturopath, and then I went to plants because I decided I liked plants better than people, I guess. So plants are predictable. You know what kind of conditions you can put them in, and they're gonna react a certain way. People you never know.
It's true.
Uh, how does it go? The same water that boils the egg softens the potato or whatnot. People are unpredictable, so I
Yeah.
liked the predictability of plants.
Yeah, they're very easy as far as that goes.
Hmm.
What are some plants that you like to grow?
Pothos, because they're really easy and really pretty, and they get really big, so you can string them around an apartment.
Yeah, it's like one of the best indoor
Mhm.
because you don't need a lot of light.
Cacti are always fun unless you have cats.
Not fun for the cats.
No, cats can be little jerks sometimes. It's like it's me or the plant. I tried to do that. There was an internet thing going around where people were like shaming their animals for things that they were doing, and so I had to put a plant killer sign on my bigger cat one time because he destroyed a whole
My
garden of
cat
mine.
loves destroying any plants that I grow on the windowsill. It's all about that.
Cats are little jerks. What can you say?
Yeah,
Mm.
they got to get their veggies.
Yeah.
Even though they can't digest them, they just love playing with them because they're stringy, and especially when they're babies, they're like toys to them, I think.
Mhm. It's like, what do they say in Batman? Some men just wanna watch the world burn. I think cats really just wanna watch the world burn.
Right. They do say that cats, they think that they own us, really.
Mhm.
Do you believe that?
Oh, definitely, especially, someone told me one time that the reason cats will bring us dead animals is because they think that we're just really bad at being animals, we're bad at feeding ourselves, so they bring them to us as, kind of a gift, a food gift in their mind.
We're not hunting at all. Why would they think that we're anything good of a hunter? Because they never see us hunt,
Right.
except for a woman or something or a man.
Mhm.
Other than that, we just go to the supermarket. I don't know if they consider that. They're not ever at the supermarket with us, so they don't see that.
Mm. No, it's like, "I love you, you little fluffy little good boy, but, I'm not gonna eat this mouse you just brought me.
Yeah,
Sorry."
unless maybe you're playing football with your friends or sports, then they'd think, okay, there's some kind of primal activity. But other than that, watching TV, no.
Mhm. Mm.
What are some of your favorite restaurants in Portland that you have been enjoying going to lately?
Pastinis, I really love my favorite 2 kinds of food are Italian food and sushi, which not the same, in any way, shape, or form, but both are delicious, and so I've been really liking pastinis,
Mhm.
and, bamboo sushi is really good. It's kind of high end, but well worth the pricing.
What's bamboo sushi?
They have a location over off Alberta that I really like to frequent, and it's delicious. They do a mango roll that's just to die for.
Nice.
When I was younger, I mentioned we had lived in Panama and we had a mango tree in the front yard, and my parents were always catching me out front trying to eat the unripened mangoes because when you're 4 years old, you don't realize what's ripe and what's not ripe. And
No.
mangoes quickly became my favorite fruit. So they have a mango roll at Bamboo Sushi. If you're listening, you should definitely try it. Head on over there. And then I really love the observatory. It's my favorite little. It's a bar technically, but they also do really good food. The Jamaican jerk chicken is yummy.
Nice. Do you like to cook at home as well?
I make a really good corned beef and cabbage. Irish families, so corned beef is kind of a big one.
the recipe is like handed down generations?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
I went based off my father's recipe, but I've definitely tweaked it a bit over the years. We just cook it in a bunch of Guinness, and it always turns out really good.
Nice.
Cook it in Guinness, serve it with Guinness, and then to finish it, a chocolate Guinness cheesecake. So Guinness is really the key ingredient there.
Have you ever done a car bomb?
No.
It's like a famous drink where you put something in Bailey's.
Yeah.
No,
what is it? Bailey's, Guinness, and yeah, I'm not sure. I did a few Jaeger bombs when I was in college, and I think that just terrified me from any sort of drink that had bomb named after it.
Yeah.
Because Jaeger bombs will destroy you.
Right? And tequila make you hallucinate. But
Mm-hmm.
more into weed, right?
Oh, absolutely. I've been in the cannabis industry here in Oregon for about 5 years now. I started when I was 18 and had a medical card, and quickly grew to really love it. I started when it was all medical and working with people who really needed it for conditions.
Yeah.
Was really rewarding to me. Prior to that, I had been a CNA for a short bit. And that was just very emotionally grueling because I'd been working with Alzheimer and dementia patients.
Yeah.
And so it was a little more easy paced for me. I'm kind of a soft heart, and seeing how much it benefited people, especially my mother, she's real big on like CBD because it's a non-psychoactive, but with her fibromyalgia and rheumatoid arthritis,
Yeah.
it's been a great help with all that.
What kind of improvement have you seen?
Definitely a lot of pain relief, and she tells me all the time she can actually sleep better. She's not in pain as much, and so makes me happy. She has started seeing this guy that she actually had a crush on in high school. They reconnected after all these years, and so seeing how much she's like men weren't coming like in and out.
Yeah.
And so the entire time, I really appreciated that about her, especially now that I'm older.
Yeah.
And I hear stories from my girlfriends who grew up in divorced homes where their moms were bringing a lot of people in and out. Makes me really appreciate that about her as a mother. Very fiercely protective.
And you have a Instagram profile separate. It's called the Stony Fox. I'm scrolling through right now.
We're on it, and at the time I was really engrossed in the weed industry, and just kind of wanted to share and got a glass collection going on there as well.
German glass only for you?
Favorites, I absolutely love Dean. He makes these fantastic porcelain rigs, and very intricately painted.
Is that one of them right
Yep,
there?
that's kitties all over it. But I had actually messaged him. I saw one from you for the longest time. Could you hold it for just it? He was really cool about it. Was like, absolutely, I'll do that for you. And now it's mine.
Nice. What is this thing right here?
It's called a pendant. They're really cool. That one in design specifically because a lot of people use them to suck seeds when they're in the cannabis gardens. Depending whether
what do you mean?
Because seeds can be either male or female, and you want to know
the sex seeds. Suck seeds. I was like, what?
Oh, sorry, sex seeds. And depending if it swings back and forth or in circles, you can tell if it's male or female, and that way you know. Yeah, because you don't want to grow your male plants or chance growing a male where your females are, because then they could cross. Old wives' tale.
Right.
I feel like it's been proved feminized seeds and some aren't necessarily feminized, and you might get like one of a bunch that are.
Yeah.
It just depends if you're.
And I see a guitar.
That was an X's.
I thought it might have been. Was he good at guitar? Play live? He
played in a band in high school, and then after that, he just more or less jammed with friends. I think it was a stress reliever for him. I always liked it because I don't know, I like listening to people on instrument that same musical talent. She also has a lovely singing voice, which I was not gifted.
Well, if you enjoy music and 420, I'm going to be at Portland Saturday Market April 20th at 2 p.m. So
okay.
I'm telling all my fans to go. So maybe you could actually meet some fellow listeners and guests. That would be fun.
Oregon Cannabis Outlet up on Sandy and 107th, 109th. It's right off 205, and we're a real great little in December.
And you enjoy it a lot?
Thus far.
Nice.
Yeah, most competent boss I've had in the cannabis industry, and all my coworkers are just.
Does the dispensary work with a lot of local artists, glass artists?
No, they usually go through I think it's Yellowbird distribution to get most of their glass. We just try to keep things very budget friendly because one, the neighborhood we're in, and two, there's a couple other shops up the road for us, but they tend to be a little higher end and a little higher priced, and so we're good getting meds to people who wouldn't necessarily be able to afford it otherwise.
Yeah.
We do have a few great top shelf options, and we always do sales. This week we have 25% off going on everything, and then Saturday to come in and get a top shelf ounce.
Nice. As far as your go-to glass, do you feel like the big thick bongs are nice, or do you tend to go for a smaller bong?
I'm a pretty avid dabber just because flower gets me stupid stoned. Dabbing, I feel a little more functional. I always tell people at work I'm never more productive than a day when I start it with a dab and a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. I'm actually a
Right.
bigger tea drinker now, but um, yeah, so I like little dab rigs but big bongs if I'm going to do flower.
So, okay. Do you prefer like the lower temp dabs or higher temp?
I like lower temp because then you get more of that terpene profile from the oil, which I really love. I typically go for like live resins or diamonds in sauce, and so they're always really flavorful. And I think terpenes are a really important part of your high.
Yeah.
I think my ex, who was also in the cannabis industry, described it as if THC is the fuel that gets the car going, terpenes are kind of like the steering wheel. They tell the car where to go. And so I think they affect your high tremendously.
Yeah.
And they're really the differentiator between sativas and indicas and hybrids.
So you do feel like major differences between sativas and indicas?
Oh, yeah. I'm typically a sativa girl, but I've been so busy lately, I haven't had a chance to smoke during the day. So I've been doing indicas at night, and they greatly improve my sleep. We have this really fantastic lavender is one of my favorite indica strains of all time, and we got a good batch of it in at the shop, and so I've just been smoking on that lately.
Yeah,
Super
I've not
flavorful.
tried that one. Is that a newer strain?
It's been around for at least a couple of years. I know it's not an old school landrace strain, but it's been around for at least a little bit, and it's a super mellow, super stony high, and if you do too many bowls of it, you will go to bed.
Couch lock.
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite strain at the dispensary right now?
Probably that lavender, although we just got this purple punch in that just absolutely glistens. It's our highest priced here at 150 an ounce, and it's just beautiful. You look at under an LED and it just glistens, and it smells. It like punches you in the face, literally like the name when you smell it.
Has anyone ever fallen asleep on the job?
I certainly haven't, but oh, you know what? First dispensary I ever worked at, I was 18, and the gentleman who hired me into the industry, real sweet guy, had to be there sometimes 16, 80 hours a week
Yeah.
because they were just starting. And so he didn't actually smoke, but we had a cot for him in the break room because he would go back there sometimes working that much. He would just have to take a nap.
Yeah.
So
That's sometimes smoking too much. I can't imagine not taking a nap sometimes. If I
Well,
was working at a dispensary.
the funny thing was is in the medical days, you could go back if you had a medical card into a private room and smoke, but he actually didn't smoke. He did in college, but wasn't like an active stoner as you would call it, but he was the only
Yeah.
one that would end up taking naps given he was there 60, 80 hours a week. So
Would you ever grow your own weed?
absolutely. I would need a place to do it, but
No closet gorilla grows for you?
no, I'm hoping to eventually have like a little house someday where I could grow a couple of plants. I really love all plants though, and so I'd love to have a little greenhouse with just a bunch of different stuff, basil, tomatoes, cannabis.
You should just grow some basil on the windowsill. I had grown a lot, purple basil, green basil.
And
I've been growing a tomato plant on my windowsill since December. So
wow.
I guess you just need the light to come in. I don't know how your window works, but mine's good for that, especially since I'm on the 12th floor.
Helps to be a little closer to the sky.
Yeah, for sure. And I have a rooftop garden on, so that's good. Did you hear about the whole Lori Loughlin thing?
Oh, yeah, and
Felicity
Felicity.
Huffman.
Desperate Housewives and Full House.
Fuller House, exactly. She's not going to be on the final season.
I would
And
imagine so.
they responded as she's actually just a guest star and she will not be on it. Like, they were pretty businesslike about it.
Mm-hmm.
So they're done with her. And
Reminds me of, separate situation, but Kevin Spacey in House of Cards.
I think Kevin Spacey's probably worse, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Do you think that they're being harsh because she didn't want to go to trial, and now they're saying like she could face some serious time, over a few years at least?
For me personally, I don't know these people personally, but definitely a sign of elitism because there's a lot of people who work really hard to get into these Ivy League schools who don't get in or can't get in because of money and the whatnot. And so just the idea that someone was able to do that not based on merit, but because they had money, I'm like, I know it's been happening for a really long time. This isn't like the first time it's happened and someone's suddenly getting caught. This has been going on for a while. And
That's the first public case really that I've ever heard about it.
right. But there's if you go back, there's stories about politicians whose fathers bought them into their schools and the whatnot. And so
Yeah, you hear stories.
I think it's important that it's finally catching up with people because, again,
the internet is making it happen. Like, you have to own up to stuff now.
I think it's going to be a real hard case for her to try and prove that she's not guilty at all. I think that was an unwise decision, and she's going to face like a lot more jail time for it. My parents, funny enough, both of them were military paralegals. Like I said, mom Air Force, dad was Army.
Yeah.
And that was something that they always told me. They're like, if you're sure as guilt and they can absolutely prove it, the best thing you can do at that point is to cooperate because they'll be a little more lenient than if you try and fight it.
Yeah. What was she thinking? Why didn't she just say, okay, I'm guilty? Didn't the lawyer explain it to her properly?
I'm not sure. And again, I don't know these people personally, but I think maybe she was thinking because she is such a big celebrity name that she wouldn't actually face punishment for it. And for her, it may have even been like, she probably knew a lot of people who did this and didn't get caught. So she probably didn't think she was going to get caught in the first place.
Well, she got caught.
And she got caught bad.
Why didn't she just use a Bitcoin? Something less traceable. That's ridiculous. And this guy is basically, you know what? She got caught, I heard, because someone snitched on her. And that's what's going to happen. Someone, if you're doing shady things, you're going to have to worry about getting snitched on, especially when you're leaving this money trail everywhere. There's like evidence, basically. So, and I think maybe she just wanted to hide it from her daughter. Like, that's why this whole thing went that's why she did it the way she did it. I don't know, but I wouldn't want to be her right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be anyone involved in that scandal.
Yeah. Definitely not.
Could you imagine being there are kids though that got bought into these colleges and like having to go to school and then everybody looks at you, they're like, we know why you're here. You know, your parents bought you and you didn't deserve to be here necessarily.
Exactly. How is she going to get taken seriously at all now?
It was really a disservice to their children and other people's children, like I said, who had wanted to go to those schools and couldn't because of, financial opportunity and the whatnot.
Yeah. Do you have any other goals not related to modeling interested in?
Well, I would really love to finish my degree in botany, and I think one day maybe I'd love to own like a little cafe almost, sell some plants in it, maybe some artwork or pinned bugs or the whatnot. I think that would be really cool.
Nice.
I don't know how it goes into copyright or anything, but I mentioned earlier I was a really big vintage cinema avid, and so I would really love to like pick a day of the week to show like older movies or the whatnot, like Casablanca or The 7-Year Itch or something like that.
Did you ever watch old movies?
Oh, all the time. I grew up watching them. When I was younger, when my great-grandmother on my mother's side was still alive, my mother would drive us down to Eugene to go visit with her and my grandmother, and I was the only grandchild that would like just sit there and hold her hand, and we would watch older movies and TV shows. To this day, I Love Lucy is my favorite TV show of all time, but that quickly expanded to like the Beverly Hillbillies and the Addams Family and the Dick Van Dyke Show.
This was the movies your grandma watched? So I'm trying to think. My grandpa would put on old war movies. You probably didn't watch the same things, but I watched like Stalag 17, The Four Feathers, stuff like that.
No, grandfather on my mother's side was really into John Wayne though, and so I watched a lot of John Wayne movies with him. The grandfather on my father's side was a little sensitive to war movies. He was a Vietnam veteran, and so as in Coast Guard, and so he had seen some really yucky things and didn't want to be reminded.
My
I would
grandpa was
imagine.
in the Korean War, and I don't know. I guess it didn't affect him as much. Yeah.
It really broke, I think, that my father's heart, and so with him, we watched some military movies, but they were like military comedies almost. Like Abed Costello do a few like in the Navy and the whatnot, and they're not war movies in the least. They're just it just happens to be that their characters in the movie are like in the Navy. A lot of singing, a lot of jokester comedy.
Did you like Grace Kelly? My brother was a fan growing up.
Oh, our original American princess. I love Grace Kelly.
Nice.
Rear Window, all her outfits are just to die for.
Hitchcock, don't even give me. I took a film class in high school and can very much appreciate his stuff. And if you've seen Black Mirror, you can agree it's basically the same thing. Even though they're starting a new Twilight Zone on CBS All Access. These streaming services are, there's going to be too many with Disney and CBS now. It's too many. There's a lot of content that's good. It's great for actors, I guess. How do you choose? How do you curate after a while?
I tend to follow. If I have a favorite character in a show, I'll try and see what else they're in. Like I mentioned earlier that I'm in love with Mad Men. Kiernan Shipka is Don Draper's daughter, Sally Draper, all throughout Mad Men. And it's really cool because in the first season, she's just a little girl. And then you get to see in the last season, she's actually a teenager at that point.
Yeah.
So you get to see her grow up on the show.
I liked her a lot. And I thought I'd like her in the Sabrina Teenage Witch show, but I just couldn't get it. Immediately, I was like, oh, this is aimed at 13-year-old girl. Like there's like a hot guy like on the screen. I was like, I'm not going to like this.
Oh God, I feel a little embarrassed now because that's what I was about to bring up. I was in love with her on that show, and then I totally got into the chilling adventures of Sabrina around Halloween.
You could identify with it more, I think.
As a female.
Exactly. And I actually saw that show, the original one. So I'm going to like compare it to that as soon as I go in and stuff.
But no, I think she did fantastic in both, and it was great seeing her to get to grow up doing both.
I tried to watch Riverdale as well, and being an Archie fan, I thought I'd like that too.
Oh, KJ Apa and Madeline Pash. I have crushes on a bunch of the Riverdale cast.
I might have been that I got burned out on the whole CW teen romance thing, maybe. So I can't watch those anymore because I watched enough Smallville and Buffy that I can't watch anymore.
I understand.
That might have been what happened, honestly. Did you ever watch CW shows growing up?
No, I don't think so. Growing up, we didn't have cable television, and so it was tending to be whatever was on the antenna.
No Dawson's Creek for you.
No Dawson's Creek.
But that was what was on the antenna for me. Like Channel 11 came in at the time, and that came in on the antenna. So that's how I watched Dawson's Creek.
On the antenna, I remember there was a lot of that 70s show, a lot of Judge Judy, a lot of Cops. Let's see what else was there. Some Ghost Whisperer. Yeah, I think that's what I remember most. And then there was, of course, OPB, which I really loved as a kid.
What do you think are some things that inspired you to go into modeling?
Well, I got approached by a casting agent for Elite Models when I was 14, and I went through the whole audition process, and it pretty much came down to they asked if I would ever be willing to do like Victoria's Secret or like Sears, like bathing suit. And my mother was like, that's something I think your father would be very cross about. And so it ended up being a no-go. But I had never really considered modeling before I had been approached by that agent. And so after that audition went south, my older sister, or older half sister from my mother's first marriage, she's a graphic design artist and was a photographer back when she lived in Idaho. And so she was out for a visit, and she did some of the first. I don't know if they're up on my Instagram or not. I don't think they are. They're I was 14, much younger, but that's what really got me started.
And on your Instagram, you have a lot of full page stuff. Now, do you post this? Do you have someone in charge of posting that?
I'm in charge of my Instagram.
Nice. Why did you decide to go with the full page a lot of the time, which I like? because you get to see more?
I wanted something that would catch someone's eye when they went to my Instagram, and so I thought if they should maybe draw them to look at those that I have up.
Yeah. Planning it
Definitely
out.
improved as you go up.
Yeah. So a featured model on Model Mayhem. How did you feel when you found that out, and how did it happen?
I got a message from Model Mayhem one day, and they were like, "We would like to make you a featured model, but you need to fix your." I had originally had the crop on my profile photo like a horizontal.
Right.
It was needs to be a square, and so of course I was absolutely smitten with the idea of being a featured model on Model Mayhem. Floofy, right?
Yeah.
She was a featured model at the same time I was, and they put our photos side by side.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Portland is really conquering Model Mayhem right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of great girls here in town.
Yeah. I've worked with some photographers on Model Mayhem doing some music shoots for press, and it's fun. For sure, doing like a trade shoot. Have you worked with any experience level as far as it goes with photography, or?
I think I've worked with most experience levels in the time I've been modeling.
Yeah.
Given I did it a bit as a teenager, and then I stopped for a couple of years and just got started doing it again in December. So in the entire time I've been acting as a model, I guess, I've worked with definitely a lot of different skill levels.
Nice.
Some people do it professionally, some are doing it just for fun, and
Yeah.
I'm happy to go wherever the creative outlet goes or the money goes.
Do you have any creative input on things? I noticed that this right here looks like Guns N' Roses, which I love that band. And the rope looks like it's a Portland Kink thing.
Yeah, that was Shabari DiGiovanni did that. He has an absolutely lovely girlfriend, Queen Canna. Her name's Renee, that I absolutely adore. They're just the sweetest people.
Yeah.
Diego had reached out to me wanting to see if I'd be willing to do a Shabari shoot, and I'd done kind of one before with Ted Mishima. He was a film photographer, and
Yeah.
the Shibari wasn't the main focus of the shoot. It just happened to be in a couple of the photos of it. But when Diego reached out to me, I was like, that's not something I really have a lot of in my portfolio. And so I asked him, I'm like, are you open to model ideas? And he was oh, absolutely, of course. And I was like, well, I had this idea with shibari ties and roses and
Yeah.
doing the photos in black and white, maybe the roses in color. And he was like, I absolutely love it. And I love what he did with the photos.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And you work with Beyond Boudoir.
Boudoir. Mm-hmm.
How was that?
Oh, it was great. I went out to Camas and shot with him for photos for his bent box, and I think it went splendidly.
Very cool. Do you tend to do more artsy photos, not as much as the erotic ones, or?
I do a little bit of both. I think my favorite are typically the more like high fashion and artsy ones.
Okay.
But
Mostly solo shoots, or do you ever do other models too?
It's so funny. It's mostly solo shoots only because photographers will reach out to me and they'll be like, I really want to work with you. And I think there's another model I really want to, pose you with. And I'll go and do a solo shoot with them first just to get a feel to see if we vibe together well. And then I get there and they're like, oh my goodness, you are so much taller than you look in your photos.
Right.
And I don't know whether to take that as a compliment or something I need to work on. But they're like, just your frame for how tall you are. We would have thought you were like 5'2" or 5'4". So you're definitely not going to be able to like work with the model we had in mind.
Right.
It typically the girls that have the same frame as me, I guess, tend to be shorter. I'm not sure, but I haven't had too much of an opportunity to work with other models yet. I did do a shoot with Polar Bear and Queen Kiana, who I had mentioned a little earlier though, and that went really well.
Nice. Yeah, I guess earlier in your career, was it more erotic and now it's getting artsier from what I could see?
Yeah, I could say so. I think I'm getting more freedom to.
Which ones do you tend to like more?
I like artsy.
Yeah.
Definitely. I like being creative. I just did a shoot with Tim Van Bergen, whom I absolutely adore. He's a fantastic photographer and definitely one of my favorites to work with.
Nice.
And some of those are going to come out real artsy and fantastic. I did a whole beret and garter belt, and it looks very French.
Very cool.
I adored it.
Do you have any kind of nature foresty pictures coming
Yes, and I have yet to post them. I'm going to do a series of Polaroids on my Instagram next, and the ones I did with Polar Bear and Renee, Queen Can at the top, that they've posted. I'm a little
Yeah.
lagging on behind.
Where was
Yeah.
that?
That was out. Oh, you know what? I can't remember. It's just south of here. There's a big nature trail, kind of down across from Selwood, is where we went for that.
Not Forest Park. Yeah.
It was, oh no, Forest Park's up here. I did a shoot with Adriana Mishima up in Forest Park. That went splendidly as well. I still have yet to post those photos, but
Yeah, you're posed by like the Witch's Castle. I've seen models over there.
I need to make my way over there.
Yeah,
because I've had people tell me about it.
definitely. I mean, it's awesome. I did snow. How was it cold?
Oh, absolutely. I'm way behind on posting photos. I do everything in a very specific layout.
Yeah.
I like things to flow on my Instagram, and so I'm not gonna lie. I had planned a trip up to Seattle because I'd gotten booked for a bunch of work up there. And literally the day before I drove up, it was when the blizzard hit in Seattle in February.
Yeah.
And I was determined that I was going to make it, and I was still going to do it, and I wasn't going to flake out. One, because there was a bunch of artists up there who I really wanted to work with, and two, money. And so I made it up through the blizzard and ended up doing, that snowshoe and a few others that were luckily in studio, so I wasn't freezing the entire trip. And I could only do it for like a minute or two before I started to cry. It was freezing.
Right. I was doing some over in Forest Park. It wasn't even snowing, and just holding the guitar. My hands were freezing, so I can't imagine you're naked.
Oh my goodness, I was so bitter. I did a second shoot out in the snow with a different photographer, and we're walking out there. And he's like, "It's a little chilly out, isn't it?" And I'm like standing there naked. I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I can't imagine how you feel because I'm wearing like 2 pairs of pants right now and 2 sweaters." I was like, "Oh my God."
No, it's like you're.
I was like, "Don't even talk about that to me right now."
It's almost like you're a soldier out there. Like you're enduring that cold weather. It's not easy.
No, it's definitely not easy to be that cold and trying not to look cold.
Yeah, it looks like you're having a great time for sure. On Instagram, are you getting a lot of unsolicited messages, annoying messages? I don't know. Do you ever get a guy sending like a dick pic?
Oh, I've gotten a good fair share of dick pics. I mean, I shouldn't even say fair share. That's not something I ever asked for, but yeah, no, a lot of dick pics. A lot of guys who just want you to talk to them, but they don't want to buy like content from you or
yeah, they just want to waste your time.
Yeah. I mean, to them, I know they're not thinking they're wasting my time. They're like, "Oh, there's this attractive girl and I'd really like to get to know her." But on my end, I just get so many of those kinds of messages. It's like, is this business or is it
Yeah,
not?
why do you think those guys are sending you dick pics for? Validation?
I'm not sure if they're looking for validation or if they're just hoping that I will be so impressed with this photo before me that I might want to talk to them.
This
But
is like the dick of all
that
dicks.
that has never worked. Guys
like,
out there, don't send dick pics trying to hope that you'll impress the girl because it will never work.
I don't think it's ever worked.
No, not at all.
It'll be futile. So yeah. And what's your thoughts on religion?
My mother was religious growing up, and so I'm not necessarily religious myself. I consider myself to be more spiritual, maybe. But I respect religion as long as it doesn't impose on me as a person. I'd really love to live in a society where it's like, okay, you believe in that God, you believe in that God, or you believe in the same God, but you practice it different ways, and that's chill as all, and we don't have to bother each other about it.
Yeah. Game of Thrones is coming back soon. Have you ever seen it?
I've never seen it, but funny enough, the snow photos you mentioned, the ones I did with Than Monk, I posted them, and people started commenting. They're like, "You look like a White Walker," and I was like, "What's a White Walker?"
Yeah, you should have used like the North hashtags and stuff.
Yeah. I sent just the headshot to my family, right? Because I wasn't going to send them the full body in the snow photos, but I sent them the headshot I have where you can definitely see like my eyes and the black lips. And my father responded. He's like, "You could be an understudy for Sansa Stark." And I was like, "Who's that?" I had to look her up.
Yeah, you could be like a stand-in for her, I think. You're perfect. Would you ever do acting work?
I actually just got approached by a film company who's possibly looking to cast me in a horror movie they're doing. I've read the script and it seems interesting. It's definitely got that very 70s, 80s grindhouse B film feel to it.
Yeah.
And so that might be a little interesting
Nice.
to work with. You never know.
Yeah.
I need to respond to them really quickly, though. I want to watch a couple of their other movies before I agree to do a virtual audition, but that might be interesting.
Yeah.
A break into film.
Definitely. What do you like to do in your free time in Portland?
When I have free time,
Yeah.
honestly, I really like hanging out with my cats or smoking and watching TV. It's been a while, but I like to paint. I do a lot of surrealistic butterflies
What
that
kind
I
of
really love.
medium do you like to work with?
Acrylics on canvas, typically.
Very cool.
Mhm.
Would you ever do body painting?
Me? Oh yeah, absolutely. I know that's kind of a feat on its own because you have to be there for an entire day because they have to paint you and then you have to wait for it to dry
Right?
and
And then you're just gonna wash it off.
mhm. I feel like that's the part that would break my heart the most. I'd be able to make it through the whole day being happy as a clam, and then I'd go to wash it off and I don't think I would be able to. Probably
Right?
go to bed body painted and ruin all my sheets.
Totally right. It'd be
Mm.
cool if it could be like a body paint that's kind of like a tattoo that won't rub off and
It stays on for a
you
while.
could just wear it instead of clothes. Yeah, like the
Mhm.
paint on jeans. Did you ever see Skin Wars? Love that show.
Mm.
Good Netflix reality show, but it's over.
Oh,
Yeah,
I think I've seen an episode or two of it.
love it. And you said you played the Crash remake and the Spyro remake?
I've done the Crash Bandicoot remake. It's a lot harder as an adult than it was as a child, from what I remember.
Yeah.
But I need to try the Spyro remake because I absolutely loved A Year of the Dragon was my favorite as a kid. And so I definitely want to try it as an adult just to see if it's what I remember. And it'd be kind of fun to try it stoned, I feel like.
It's kind of hard to play video games not stoned as an adult. I don't know. How do you get to that childlike state, you know?
Mm-hmm. That's how I was with Sims for the longest time. I'd have Sims going on my lap, Netflix going in the background, and I'd just be smoking weed the entire time. One of my cats cuddled up next to me somewhere.
Yeah. I like multitasking like that, but it's like to a point where if it's like so much dialogue, if I'm playing a video game, then I'm like, okay, I'm losing the idea of the show. So if it's like the New York Islanders managed to make it to the playoffs this year, so that's like a good background thing where I could play a video game while it's in the background because I could just watch when somebody scores a goal or something, you know. But if it's something like Mad Men, there's like a lot of visual elements that I want to see sometimes.
Definitely, but because I've watched it 5 times through at this
There you
point,
go,
like, I
yeah.
just play it as background noise or, my parents raised me on shows like America's Most Wanted and Forensic Files, just because of what they did as a profession, and so now I'll let, like, Forensic Files run in the background.
Yeah.
And it can be a little scary sometimes because Sims is one of those games where you can get lost on and you're like, oh my God, it's 2 a.m. And then you look up at the television and it's like dead body and you're like, what am I doing?
Right? Have you tried VR yet?
Mm-mm.
Resident Evil 7 I have on VR for PlayStation. Scary as hell. Probably the scariest thing. Like, I don't get scared by movies, but that will scare me. Like nothing will. So you were doing some shoots in Southern California you're going to be doing in June?
Yeah, hopefully. I have a couple booked down in LA and I'm hoping to book some in San Diego, although that's a little slower going than LA for whatever reason. So I might end up spending a whole week in LA instead of flying to San Diego at all, but there's still time to book some stuff down there.
Does an agent book that for you?
Nope, I book it all myself. I've
very
been doing
cool.
this independently. I would love to eventually be signed to an agency like a lead or something along those lines, but I would need to get a couple of things taken care of first.
So you had hustled to get those LA gigs, or were you approached?
I was approached. I put out a casting or a travel notice up on Model Mayhem and got a few that way. And then I have a couple of people who've messaged me on Instagram who are like, if you're ever in LA, please let me know. And so.
Have you ever heard of this site called Gig Masters?
Mm-mm.
That's how I get music gigs. I'm just wondering if models could do that. I know there's all kinds of performers on there, so
That would be interesting. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
I just made an account on One Model Place, which is another modeling
heard of that
platform.
one.
Yeah, I hadn't before until
Until they started charging for
Oh, did
messages.
they?
I think Model Mayhem now charges you to send messages. So I think that's probably why I picked up too.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Because I have a Model Mayhem and I can send messages for free, I think.
I think
But
maybe because you're verified or your model. I don't know what it is, but for like new male photographers, you're not gonna be able to send a message.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be able to, and then one day they were just like, "Oh, you need a membership," and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting."
Oh, yeah, I didn't know about that. That's different.
Mm. Maybe they're just trying to stop spamming and stuff, but I don't know.
You do get a lot of spam messages on those kind of sites, or like messages from people you're like, this doesn't seem quite right.
Yeah.
And so you end up not responding because you're like, that's probably not going to go safely.
Mm-hmm. And as far as Portland goes, you've been here 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
and you were with someone. You met them through Tinder or something, I assume.
No, it was my my high school sweetheart. We were together for
Nice.
6 years.
Why didn't that work out? If I don't mind asking.
I don't know. I feel like I was trying to be a little more of an independent person, and I think he felt threatened that I was trying to be a little more on my own 2 feet. And it was the more I tried to be independent, the more he like tried to pull me back. And I mean, I still really love him. He's a great person. He doesn't follow me on any social media anymore, and it kind of breaks my heart because I really wanted to still be friends because we'd known each other since kids and we're really good friends long before we ever started dating. But
Yeah,
I think that's just the nature of relationships. He was he's a really great bassist that I was talking about earlier.
nice.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a sweet bass guitar right behind me.
Yeah, I was admiring it earlier. What kind of wood is that?
I don't know, but honestly, it looks really amazing for the cheapest $200 bass on Amazon. It's like a dark mahogany, I think, finish.
I love it.
Yeah.
Mahoganies and walnuts are always splendid as furniture and as instruments.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get some more cool background set stuff. I used to have my guitar hanging up on the right side, but one day it just fell down, and I was like, "Ah."
You don't want to risk that.
The guitar was too heavy. It was from like 1988, I guess, so just couldn't handle it.
Too much, too quick.
Yeah.
I also noticed you have a Superman comic.
Yeah. That was from my grandma. Well, my dad originally had that comic book. So I'd put it in a case, and I think it's only worth $10 or $20, but
that's something though, because it says what, 12 cents up there?
Yeah,
Appreciation.
Exactly.
My baby sister, she goes to school in Colorado. She works at a comic book store up there or down there, and she recently got really into comics, specifically like Deadpool and Spider-Man. But
nice.
I went antique hunting this last December, and I found some of the old school Disney ones with like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and the whatnot. And I picked those up for her, and she was super stoked.
Did you ever read comics?
No, I've read the Watchmen comics and the V for Vendetta comic because I don't know why my father showed me the movie V for Vendetta when I was like 10, but I watched it and it was immediately like one of my favorite movies from my childhood.
Awesome.
And so when I was a teenager, I read the comics and of course loved them. And then The Watchmen came out and I had to see that.
Yeah. How do you feel about the whole poly kink Portland scene?
I mean, I love being in Portland because people can express themselves in any which way. You talk to people here in Portland about polyamory, and most of them already know what's going on. You mentioned polyamory down in like Tennessee or down in Texas, and people are like, "What's that?"
Yeah.
Because I think monogamy down there is just kind of considered the norm.
Right.
They don't even know that it's called monogamy sometimes too, which is funny. They're like, "Isn't that just normal?" I'm like, no, not really. Depends on who you are, I guess, and what's considered normal. But
yeah.
No, I make the joke all the time. Oregon's really a place if you're a hedonist because we've got nude beaches, we've got cannabis, and like everybody. I mean, You see so much weird stuff that, like, you can do and wear and dress any way you want, and people don't even blink an eye.
Yeah. Have you been to Sauvie Island?
Mhm. Oh, Collins Beach is totally my scene up in the summertime. I haven't made myself out to, Rooster Rock yet, but Collins is the best.
Yeah. It's been a few years, but I used to enjoy playing some frisbee.
Mhm. My first experience at Collins, I went down there, to Sauvie's Island to, photograph some glass I was trying to sell, actually, and I ended up on the nude beach just on accident. I was like, when in Rome, and so I undressed and everything and set down a towel, and my first memory is, like, looking up, and there's this 50-year-old man, like, standing right in front of me with his junk, like,
Right. I
a
was
foot
gonna,
and a half away from my face, and he's like, "Hello," and wanted to talk to me this entire time with
that's what you want when you first wake up, with cock in your face. That's every woman's dream. I was gonna say, do you notice that when you on the nude beach, that slowly like guys will start to appear around you, like every time you look left and right?
If you go by yourself, oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Safety in numbers, go with a girlfriend or 2.
Yeah, that guys will be more intimidated if you're with a pack of females.
We're like wolves, really. Especially if you get a pack of redheads together. That's not something you wanna
that's a
mess
rare
with.
sight.
Yeah. Funny enough, the only time I've ever been in the majority in hair color was, I went to Boston a couple years ago for St.
Yeah.
Patty's Day, and I swear, like, 3/4 of the flight was redheads.
Nice. Have you been to Ireland yet?
No, I haven't. Europe is one of those places I'm hoping my modeling takes me.
Yeah, you got to get on that for
Mhm.
sure.
I really wanna visit, the Guinness Storehouse in Dublin and go to, like, Limerick and the whatnot, which I believe is where my family originates from, the Irish part of the heritage, and so
Have you been out of country yet?
I lived in Panama when I was real young, and then, I've been to Mexico a handful of times, and I actually just went to Vancouver, BC, Canada,
Nice.
for my first time last September, so not too many countries, but, I've been out of the country a
Yeah.
few times.
Across the country?
Oh, yeah, I've been on the East Coast. I have family from Baltimore, and then, I mentioned I've been to Boston and,
Boston, you're saying it right.
Mhm.
Certainly, that's how they say it over there.
Yeah.
And New York, no?
I haven't been to New York yet, that
But
would
you've
be a
been to
dream.
Boston, so you probably had the pizza or the bagels, so
Mhm.
you know how it is, how it should be, and the Chinese
Absolutely.
food.
I did go, St. Patty's Day weekend, and so it was really, really hectic, and I don't know what my luck is with traveling and weather, but there was a snowstorm literally, like, the
Yeah.
week before I went. Given
Yeah.
the East Coast is, like, on top of the snow when it comes down there, here in Portland, we get a couple of inches and everybody loses their minds. They're like, "I don't think I can make it to work," and I'm like, "Weak. Natural selection's coming for you," but, over on the East Coast, they had a bad blizzard, worse than any of the ones we'd come here right before I went out for St. Patty's, and, when I showed up, all the parking lots were cleared, the roads were cleared, given there was piles of snow, like, 20 feet high
Yeah.
here and there, because the snow has to go somewhere, but,
Right.
yeah, no, they're on top of it.
Nice. Oh, well, thanks so much for coming in.
Yeah, absolutely, it was a pleasure.
Definitely. Hopefully, career continue. Hopefully, we do some modeling in Europe, and I'll check back with you and see how that went.
Mhm, absolutely.
Thank you again.
You guys have a great one. It was nice chatting with you.